Okay, so here we are. We're going to start a new type of animation. Well, not new type of animation, but a different approach where we're going to create a symbol or a character, in this case a bird, and then we're going to have the background scroll rather than the character move across the stage. It'll still give us the illusion of motion, um, but it's just a slightly different approach, and it just adds a nice visual feel. So I've done a search on birds, and I just wanted something, that will help me with my drawing. So I'm going to save this picture, and we'll call it bird here. And I'll put it on my desktop just so I can find it pretty easily. And then we'll flip back over to Flash and start a new file. So File, New, ActionScript 3. And we're going to create our new symbol. So this will be our bird symbol. Still on graphic here. Oops. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, so on this layer, we'll bring in that picture of the bird. So it's on our desktop. And it's going to be called bird. And we'll just drag that in there. Okay, and we'll center him over. There we go. So there's the crosshair right there. And a new layer above that, we'll call it tracing maybe, because we're going to trace over top of this bird. Now, the bird's drawn in black, and I normally draw in black myself, but because my lines might get lost in those lines, I'm going to draw in a different color. So maybe we'll make this a blue bird. So my drawing color, I'll set to blue, and we'll get our brush. Okay, so the wings are up here. That'll be our first position. This bird's holding a key. I'm not going to bother with that detail, but just making sure that I am on the tracing layers, and we'll just, I'm not going to be super careful about tracing this. I'll just get something that's nice and close, but it's probably going to be better than what I would do if I was to just try to draw it from scratch myself. Okay. And I don't know how much detail I want in there. I'm not going to do that swirly thing, but I will put the eye in there, and I'll give it a beak. And hopefully you guys can see the color going over top of the black. And a little bit of this. And the tail. Okay, so if I hide the bird layer, that's what I've got so far. Well, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, and maybe I could just add in some feet there as well. So just something kind of back like that, the feet all tucked up. Okay, so there's our bird. Now we want a few positions of the bird wings just to give it its own motion here. So we'll bring this over for another copy, so F6 on our keyboard to make another copy. And we don't need these wings anymore. Maybe we want to bring them down to about this level where they're kind of out here. So we have to erase part of this image. So I'm just clicking off, and I'll get my lasso here and just get rid of some of the wings, oops, that I don't need, because I'm going to redraw. So there, that's all gone, and we'll delete that. And bringing up my onion skin so I can see where they were before in relation to where I'm going to be drawing them now. So we'll bring them kind of out this way. A little bit of the back of the bird in there maybe, and the other wing that way. Okay, so there's position 2. So turning off my onion skin, we got that and that. And obviously this section here needs to go, so we'll erase that because the wing would be covering that now. Okay, and then another frame where the wings are right down. So F6 to bring in that new frame. delete these wings or erase them, I guess. I've already got the eraser up, so I'm going to use the eraser. So we'll erase some of these guys. And we probably won't see much of the far wing at all on this next frame. Alright, so bringing up my onion skin again. Now I've got the onion skin back both frames because I'm going to need to bring in some of that body again. So the wing will go down kind of something like this. Okay, and then from the first frame I can see that the tail needs to come back up here. There's a little bit of the body showing there. We need it back up here. And maybe we might see a little tip of the wing out there. Okay, so we'll turn off our onion skin and see what that looks like. So we got a nice motion. Now we just need to bring the wing back up to the second position. So all I'm going to do is copy this frame. Now it's not just copying though, I got to copy the frame. So I'm right clicking and actually choosing copy frame. Okay, which is different than just copying. So we copy that frame and then we'll paste it over here. So we have to paste the frame. Alright, so now we've got, and it's partially back up. Now don't forget that in our symbols, it'll loop from that fourth frame back to the first frame. So it'll go from there to there, which will be finish that motion. We don't need our tracing anymore, so we can trash that layer. So we'll just choose it and click on the trash can. And now my bird symbol is done. So let's go back out to the scene and put the bird on the timeline. So it needs to be a little bit smaller than that. Let's get our transform tool and smaller. And I'm just going to leave him in the middle of the stage there. And he needs some time on the timeline. So let's give him about 80 frames and F5 to fill that in. Now he's got a motion, so he's just going to be flapping there. So let's see how that works. Okay, so there's the wings going pretty rapidly. Now, one mistake that we've made is we forgot to fill the body of the bird in. So let's go back in and take care of that. So we'll, unfortunately though, because I'm doing this after the fact, I'm going to have to do it on every frame. So we'll get our bucket, fill, fill, and then we got to go over to the next frame. I'm clicking off here so that I don't fill in the outline as well. We don't want to accidentally do that. I got a couple little white bits there, but I'm going to live with it. And I notice here too, I missed erasing some of the old wing, so we'll get rid of that while we're here. And then last frame, we probably could have just filled in or copied that other frame again, but we're in mode now. Oops, Command Z, get the actual thing. Alright, so back out to the scene now that we've modified all the frames. Take a look at that. So there's our bird flapping. Now we don't get a sense of motion yet. One of the things is we need a background or a setting for him, and we need some clouds moving through. So it's the motion of the clouds moving against the bird that will give us the illusion of motion. So we'll get the background first. So new layer, we'll call it background, and we'll drag it underneath. Okay, and we'll just draw a big rectangle here with a different shade of blue, maybe, much later. So nice big rectangle there for our sky. That's probably too bright still. Let's go even lighter. Okay, so now we can see our bird there. And we need a layer for the clouds. So first we need a cloud. So we'll insert new symbol. We'll call it cloud. And we'll just draw, maybe we'll use a gray outline and just draw a nice, fluffy, stylized And we'll fill that with a softer gray. Okay, it's not filling, so we'll close large gaps here. Hopefully that'll do it. No, we've got something that's way too big. So let's zoom in and find it. Oh, there's one there. And anything else? Another one here. And now we should be good. There we go. Okay, so now we've got a cloud. Make a layer for the cloud. So new layer, we'll call this our cloud layer. Put the cloud on the timeline. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So transform tool, smaller. And we'll animate it across the stage here. So give it a tween. Make sure we're on the last layer here. And where do we want the cloud to end up by the end there? Maybe right here. So we don't want the cloud moving too fast. We'll sort of see how that goes. Okay, so the cloud moving through the frame gives us the idea of the motion. Now here's a little bit, if you want that to be a little bit softer. So we did say that movie clips were something that were a little bit special. I'm going to take this graphic right now and switch it to a movie clip. So with that graphic selected, we'll go over to the Property tab here, and we'll change it from graphic to a movie clip. And doing that provides some extra filters for me. One of the drawbacks of using movie clips is if this particular symbol had its own animation, I wouldn't see that until I rendered it. So that's why I like to work with graphics as much as possible. But down at the bottom of the property bar here, we've got this little page turn under the filter. So if I click there, these are the filters that I can add in here. And one of them is blur. So I'm going to choose blur. And then as I hover over top of this number here, so it's got this blue 5, I'm going to click and hold that and do this. So as I'm doing that, you can see that the cloud is getting softer looking. This is a much softer look to it. And we'll see how that looks now when we render. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then if we really want it to be impressive, we could bring a cloud into the foreground as well. So let's reuse the same cloud, maybe make it move a little bit slower, but it'll be above the bird. So we'll call this cloud 2. And we'll bring from the library, we'll bring the cloud in again. And this time we're not going to worry about keeping it in proportion. Maybe we'll squish it up a little bit so that it actually looks different than the other cloud, and I'll actually flip it around as well. Maybe give it a bit of rotation. So now it looks much different than the other cloud, and give it a little bit of softness. So change it from a graphic to a movie clip. Go down to my filters, give it a blur, and soften it up a little bit. So maybe not quite as soft as the other one because it's closer to us. Maybe it's more in focus than the background cloud. So we'll tween this. And where do we want it to be by the end here? Maybe it's not moving quite as fast, so it might finish up here. All right, so let's see that. Now maybe we should be able to see the bird through the cloud a little bit. So that's another property that we can adjust here. So if we click on that particular object, color effect under its own properties, we'll choose alpha and bring it down a little bit. So not too much, but just enough so we can see the bird through there. Okay, so pretty nice effect. Start by creating the bird, get that working first, and then the clouds on their own layers, maybe moving at different speeds to give the illusion of the motion. So there's nothing going on in the background except these clouds that helps give us or sell that idea that the bird is actually flying somewhere.